Other reports have come to me in my research, right, that Rick Yates was the coolest guy on campus, hands down. That's not rehearsed. That's everybody I talk to, right? You were like the trendsetter, man. That's why I say for what I'm doing with this project, talking to you is huge. So I want to go right into it.
Right.
Now, I've heard that. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Washington, D.C. originally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my parents moved to C. Pleasant. That's how I ended up there in C. Pleasant at Central. Actually, I thought I was going to Fairmont Heights because where I was living, I was in the zone for Fairmont Heights. So when I was in the 10th grade, that whole summer, from the 9th grade to the 10th grade, I worked out with Fairmont Heights football players, guys that were young, that was going to Fairmont Heights. Like Harvey Dorsey was probably a year ahead of me. He might have, or the same year, I can't remember. But Harvey Dorsey, Reggie Kellebrew, all those guys I worked out with because I was going to be playing at Fairmont Heights. And I got a letter from Central saying that I had to attend Central, which was a very disappointing letter because everybody I had developed a relationship with was at Fairmont Heights. So I got a letter from Central saying if I wanted to participate in any of the activities, primarily football, I had to come up in August to work out with the team. So I went up in August, and I was the only black there. Lamar hadn't gotten there. another guy, Thomas Hawkins, weren't there. So they didn't come in with August. They started when school started in September. But I was the only one out there working out with these guys, at that point in August, getting ready, trying to make the team and getting ready for football in September. So by the time they got there, pretty much I thought I was the only black in the whole high school. But Lamar came in with the transfer of the class that went to I can't even remember the middle school they went to. I went to Sousa. I went to Sousa in DC. I was supposed to go to Anacostia High School. They had me on the roster, calling me to play football and everything over at Anacostia. So I stayed on their roster. I used to go visit them when we had days off in Maryland. So, I mean, I could have transferred and played at Anacostia if I wanted to, which, trust me, was on my mind when I saw I was the only black that was at the school. And developed some relationships, but that was only the beginning, because once you hit the school, the attitudes and things really showed up, where we stood and how it was developed. But, it was really funny how they changed the boundary, because they it used to be called George Palmer Highway,
right,
which is now Martin Luther King.
I remember George Palmer.
The apartments that sit over there on the left side of George Palmer Highway, if you're going south on George Palmer, Gregory Estates. Yeah, that was all white in those apartments. So what they did was they went down the highway, swung up behind those apartments, and brought them back into the cluster for Central. Then they went back down the highway, and you know where McDonald's is or was?
Right.
They swung back up in there and picked up Holly Park.
Interesting.
And the kids from Holly Park end up going to Central unless you were already at Fairmont Heights, which they knew they were already registered to go to Fairmont Heights. So 90% or 99.5% of the kids at Holly Park went to Fairmont Heights. I was the only one that wasn't registered because I came from DC, so I had to go to Central. Oh. And that's how I ended up at Central. When we first moved there, I lived off of F Street.
Okay.
In Holly Park.
Okay, in Holly Park.
Yeah, and then we moved at the end of my sophomore year to Crown Street, which is right there off of Addison Road.
Okay.
Right where the elementary school used to be and the police department. You know where the town hall center is?
Yes. I know exactly. I know the part now. Yeah.
Yeah. We were 2 blocks before that, going towards Central Avenue.
Got you.
Yeah. No, we weren't actually in Fairmont Heights. We were actually in C Pleasant, but we were right there at Addison and Crown Street.
And so now, how was the shock of being black and the environment at Central when that's a view we don't have that lens yet. When you were there, just you, right? How was the culture shock of just being there? Coming from a black environment, both in DC, elementary.
Well, actually, the Southeast DC was considered suburban Washington DC at that time. So the breakdown, Anacostia was probably 70% white and 30% black at that time.
Washington's Curtis Brothers Furniture Store wanted to show you. The company partnered with Bassett Furniture in Southern Virginia to build the biggest chair ever constructed, a nearly 20-foot tall, 4,600-pound behemoth that was shipped to DC and installed outside the Curtis Brothers showroom in Anacostia. In July of 1959, music and door prizes brought out customers as future first daughter Maureen Reagan was crowned Miss World's Largest Chair. But that was just the beginning. In the summer of 1960, Curtis Brothers had a glassmaker build an apartment atop the big chair and set out to find a resident for their new penthouse. Someone who would live there in plain view 24/7 and attract attention to the store. They found their spokeswoman when 19-year-old Lynn Arnold walked into the showroom, looking to buy some furniture. They wanted a Cinderella figure. They didn't want Marilyn Monroe. I figured I could pull this off, Arnold recalled years later. On August 13, 1960, a forklift delivered Arnold to her high abode. Curtis Brothers advertised the stunt widely, coaxing Washingtonians to come see DC's very own Alice in the Looking Glass house. They offered free furniture to whoever correctly guessed when Arnold would return to Earth. Day after day, crowds flocked to Anacostia to take in the spectacle. Arnold passed the time reading, watching television, and waving to the throngs. Her meals, and her 14-month-old son, were raised up to her on a pulley. Finally, after 6 weeks, she'd had enough and came down, earning $1,500 for her trouble. As she told reporters on the ground, it was a unique experience. If I had the same decision to make, I still would have done it, she said. But I wouldn't ever do it twice. Today, the glass apartment and the furniture store are gone. But the legacy of the big chair lives on in Anacostia.
All the DC schools weren't completely black. You know, your inner cities like Easton,
yes,
Pentagon, they were completely black. But right. Anacostia was one of the last schools in Southeast DC that wasn't completely black.
Very interesting because
Now your schools in Northwest, upper Northwest, were white, like Western High School. That was completely white during that time. Wilson was completely white. McKinley Tech was probably 50-50, but that was the mix in DC. But where we lived in Southeast DC, we were 10 minutes from Coral Hills, which was PG County.
Right.
I could walk to Coral Hills in 5 minutes. We lived in an area called Ridge Road Playground. That's where we developed our roots, at Ridge Road Playground. All the activities that we did was based on Ridge Road Playground and the Catholic Youth Organization, CYO. That was a Catholic organization where I played all my sports. Our Lady Queen of Peace.
Got you.
Which is 5 minutes from Sousa Junior High School.
You know, I was gonna get into your sports thing in 1 second. I've heard tons of information about that. I mean, I've heard you were very, very talented, and size didn't stop you from being excellent at that, right?
No.
Now, even my own father tells me sort of like you sort of influenced him a whole lot, and like you were really almost like a big brother sort of thing with him. And
I was, exactly. Calvin, he came right in my mold. I mean, because we were about the same size. Right. And his style of play was very similar to mine. We played a lot alike, and our speed was very similar.
Right.
You know, so all that was a good mix. He stepped right in. When I left, he stepped right in. And
let me hit you with this, though. Step right in. Also with the flair and the style. He was telling me how like you had this flair. He said you was showing everybody around. You know, you had already, when they got there, man, everybody knew you. It was like, so did that style and sort of way to relate to people come from the DC environment, or was that just, where did you develop your style from fashion wise too? Because I heard
all DC, man, all DC. Yeah. That's just how I grew up. I mean, when I was in middle school, you know, I had my wardrobe. You know, I used to serve papers, man. I had a paper route, so I had my own money, and not that my parents couldn't afford, you know, to buy me what was required. My parents believed in buying what was required, but not excessive.
Yeah,
and I was excessive, so I had to get that other additional income.
Right.
And you know, that's what I did. You know, I had a wardrobe. When I got to Central, I had a complete wardrobe. So I mean, and clothes were important to me. My appearance was important, you know.
Yes. And also, you had the car already. You know, you were already doing a bunch of things by the time they got there. You were already driving and a bunch
I picked up all the brothers.
Got you.
You know, I went up just before Carl Hill, picked up Larry, picked up Calvin. Calvin used to ride to school with me every morning, almost made me late every day.
Right.
His sister, your aunt, used to get on him all the time. So, she'd come out there, she said, Rick, he ain't ready.
Right.
There's a lot of white people here that say this, that even the dumbest farmer in the world knows that if he has white chickens and black chickens, that the black chickens do better if they're kept in one yard to themselves, the white chickens do better if they're kept in a separate yard to themselves. They each do better under those conditions. And that a farmer who would mix the white and the black chickens would be the dumbest man in the world. Substantially all of the Negroes in Alabama, and perhaps in the South, Deep South, have the same background. They were all savages in Africa. Their parents sold them into slavery, or their chieftains sold them into slavery. They were brought into this country in a state of savagery. They didn't speak the language of the country. They had no concept of the economy of the country. They had no concept of working in order to obtain a livelihood. Their concept, when they were hungry, was to roam the jungles of Africa and to live in the forest and the fruits of the forest and the meats that they secured there. When they were brought into this economy, it was entirely strange and different from them. And they had to be reconciled to it. I have no doubt that the Negro basically knows that the best friend he's ever had in the world is a Southern white man. He'll do the most for him, always has, and will continue to do it. But when they, from Northern agitators, are spurred on to believe that they are the equal to the white man in every respect and should be just taken from savagery and put on the same plane with the white man in every respect, that's not true. He shouldn't be. It hurts the Negro. And that feeling has brought about this estrangement. And that feeling is brought about by outside sources, not by the Negroes residing in.
And I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Money don't make you free. Popularity don't make you free. Don't you know that? You know, sure, I live in Beverly Hills, but I'm shackled by the same things that happened to the brother-in-law.
Because I've heard so much about you, man. It's like, I don't want to leave anything out for the people who are learning. I want them to see your lens with this, because that was interesting time. And we're talking, for us in my generation, was right behind you guys. We're talking Seat Pleasant. And for us, it's sort of surreal in just one generation, the world you guys had and in what we experienced.
Right.
It's like, it's incredible, you know. So tell us your sports. How did you get into sports? What were some of your role models?
Well, I got into sports. My parents are athletes. My father especially played a lot of football, a lot of baseball. Okay. And I, as a kid, I always went to his games. You know, my mom took me to his games. So I watched sports, you know, from time I can remember till now with my dad. He had season tickets to the Redskins, so we always went to games. So I've always been around sports. My father's from a large family. You know, he's from a family of 15 kids. Okay. And eight of them were boys, and all of them played.
Gotcha.
You know, and they played in the Catholic League also as men. So I used to play for the St. Cyprian's football team, which was known, if you go back and look at the Black history of D.C., there's a lot of football talk. D.C. Collegians, St. Cyprian's, all of them played against each other. They used to travel, and they were a semi-pro team. Probably 90% of those guys, if not black, would have been playing in the NFL. They played against a lot of people that ended up in the NFL. Right, white guys, not blacks.
I follow you.
Yep.
What? So your family is native Washingtonians?
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So was the Redskins Stadium Griffith back then, or was it
what now?
Was it Griffith Stadium they were going to? Griffith Stadium?
Griffith Stadium was up by Howard University.
Yes.
And then they built RFK.
Copy that.
Which was 5 minutes from my grandmother off of Independence and 16th Street. I used to go down and play. There used to be softball diamonds down there where RFK was. So I used to go down there as a little kid playing baseball. I used to walk down there, and but then they put the stadium down there, and which was a good move. RFK was a good stadium.
Mr. Yates, man, you're a real staunch, stone cold, really a DC guy.
Oh yeah, without any doubt. Hey man, on a Friday after school, I'm back in DC. Friday night, I'm partying in DC. Saturday, I'm partying in DC. Sunday, I'm hanging out in DC. I come back Sunday, rest, go to school Monday.
Now I'm getting
that's my roots, man.
Yeah, I'm getting a clear picture. So let me ask you this. I know you heard. So how was it? Let's go back to Fairmont Heights. Now I know you figure probably speed wise, the cats in Fairmont Heights would have been more along with you, close to what you used to, you know. So that was probably a real letdown for you to head over to the other place.
Well, you know, you develop relationships when you're working out and you're talking trash. You know, we talk trash.
Right.
You know, Central, they don't talk trash.
Yeah.
They go out and that's fine with me. You know, it gives me more time to concentrate on my game. But, you know, talking trash motivates you to play more and to play better. Right. So by the time I played against Fairmont Heights, I knew where the trash talking was going to come. I knew where the speed was. And see, Trouble was the same way. We both played offense and defense. You know, Trouble played a cornerback and I played the other cornerback. Or I went back and played with Dermont at safety.
And Dermont, wow, okay, go ahead.
And you talk about natural athletes, man. They wrote an article in one of the county papers about Central having the fastest secondary in the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Dermont and Trouble.
What about Dermont?
Myself. Yeah, oh yeah. Because at one time, all of us ran track. You know, they ran track after I ran track. I ran track in the 10th grade. But my game, I played baseball. I didn't want to run track. The football coach said, hey, run track. So I ran track. But primarily, I wanted to play baseball. Gotcha. So the next year, I said, I'm not running track. I'm playing baseball. Right. And that's how Larry and I got closer.
We were in such a tumultuous time with the whole integration thing.
Oh, without a doubt. See, the thing about it, you had Thomas Hawkins that was there, and you had Lamar.
Gotcha.
Now, both of those guys had pretty much grown up in that area and adjusted to the relationships. I hadn't. I came from DC and there were certain things that just weren't accepted, you know, from European Americans. You know, it's just certain conversation wasn't accepted. So I came with a little different attitude than Lamar and Thomas.
I follow.
They had already adjusted. I hadn't.
Because I've heard some stories about C. Pleasant being very much so off the hook racist at that time. Oh
yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, C. Pleasant, that's the part we can't wrap our C. Pleasant.
Exactly. People have no clue, man. The major thing that I faced was just the conversations in the N-word. You know, N-word was not acceptable. And I could hear the N-word walking down the hall probably 3 times from one class to the other. And I was more subject to listen for it because of my previous environment. Yeah. Like I say, Thomas Hawkins and Lamar pretty much had already adjusted to the culture. I hadn't.
We moved in to C. Pleasant, Maryland, and I went to Maryland Park Junior High School. Which is right across the DC line, okay? It's no longer in existence, but that was a really eye-opening experience, you know, going to Maryland Park and living in C. Pleasant. You know, when some of my friends used to come out, they used to say, hey, man, I don't know if I can live out here with white people riding around in cars, yelling out, nigga, nigga, and stuff like that, you know. And that's what I had. That's the experience that I was going through at Maryland Park. And the only thing and the one thing that put me kind of above the racism or kind of like away from it was the fact that I played sports. Okay, I became like a little sports hero. And so instead of when white people would ride around in their cars, instead of saying nigga, they would say Tolan. You know, so that, you know, I escalated from that part up. And then I had a couple of really, really good friends, a couple of good white friends, Robbie Woolwine at Maryland Park. You know, we continued to be friends from 9th grade all the way up to 12th grade. And then the first white guy I met there, his name was Al Hurley. And I kind of felt sorry for Hurley because when the people were driving by yelling those insults at me, he'd be with me. And he just keep right on walking. And then after a while, I kind of felt sorry. I felt sorry for him, not for me. They were yelling at me, nigga. But he had to stand there and take it and whatnot. Yeah.
Paint a picture for us of the benefits and the challenges of integration at Central High.
Okay. Well, I guess the benefits would be being exposed to a different culture, and making friends with some people in that new culture, making some white friends. But also experiencing some of the pitfalls of racism and whatnot. I remember one time I was walking across the street. I think we were Maryland Park. Our field was across the street from the school. So coming back in PE, I was walking across the street and I just happened to look to my right, and this white guy said, "What the hell are you looking at, nigga?" Man, I didn't say anything. I just kept walking. But there were a few incidents at Central. There was a guy named Rick Yates that went to Central with us. I played ball with him, and he said he was getting in fights all the time because people were calling him the N-word all the time and whatnot.
And in DC, if we had something to take care of, if I had a couple of words with a person, I knew where to meet him, and it was in the boys' bathroom.
Copy that.
So if you call me the N-word and you go in the bathroom, I'm like, oh, okay, I can handle this because I'm going in the men's room also.
I follow you.
And then I'm gonna handle my business because it wasn't acceptable.
I follow you. Just
not acceptable.
Yeah, I want people to see this, to know that took a lot of courage to have that kind of stance at all, because historically that would be a major problem. And I also, this is for study purposes for people watching, especially you have to understand when you went there also, how was the administrative situation in reference to those kinds of things? How did they handle that?
Well, they didn't handle it. They kind of wanted to ignore it. Because after about my third football game playing, and Mr. Neri was our principal.
Neri,
And he was big into sports.
Okay.
He had gotten word that I was fighting every day in the gym, bathroom, wherever. And he called me into the office and he said, "Ricky, we're going to have to take you off the team if you continue to fight." He said, "You got to allow me the opportunity to handle this." I said, "Mr. Neri, that's fine. But I tell you what, if I walk out this office and someone used the N-word with me going down the hall, it's not going to stop, and I'm going to handle it myself."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I'm going to have to take you off the football team if you continue to fight." And some of the guys on the older guys on the football team got wind of it, and they really stepped in. It was more so the seniors on the team that really, really stepped in and made sure that I wasn't put in a situation where the word was used, the N-word. So, it slowed down, it changed somewhat, it got better, got a lot better. But really, when the change came is when Larry and all those guys got there. That next class became like 70% white, 30% black, because a lot of kids came from Fairmont Heights. And they came with a little attitude also. That's trouble in them. That class came in, they were like 70-30.
Let's develop that house. So listen, could part of that have been with, I know more kids coming in 68. Was there any flight of, white people from the area that made that?
Not at that time. No, they were there. That was their home. They weren't going anywhere. You know, they were the blue collar workers. They couldn't go nowhere at that point.
Dan Rather in New York, Bernard Kalb in Saigon, Marvin Kalb in Wellington, New Zealand, and Bert Quint in Khe Sanh, South Vietnam.
Good evening. Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee. Police have issued an all-points bulletin for a well-dressed young white man seen running from the scene. Officers also reportedly chased and fired on a radio-equipped car containing 2 white men. Dr. King was standing on the balcony of a second-floor hotel room tonight when, according to a companion, a shot was fired from across the street. In the friend's words, the bullet exploded in his face. Police, who have been keeping a close watch over the Nobel Peace Prize winner because of Memphis' turbulent racial situation, were on the scene almost immediately. They rushed the 39-year-old Negro leader to a hospital where he died of a bullet wound in the neck. Police said they found a high-powered hunting rifle about a block from the hotel, but it was not immediately identified as the murder weapon. Mayor Henry Loeb has reinstated the dusk-to-dawn curfew he imposed on the city last week when a march led by Dr. King erupted in violence. Governor Buford Ellington has called out 4,000 National Guardsmen. And police report that the murder has touched off sporadic acts of violence in a Negro section of the city. In a nationwide television address, President Johnson expressed the nation's shock.
America is shocked and saddened by the brutal slaying tonight of Dr. Martin Luther King. I ask every citizen to reject the blind violence that has struck Dr. King, who lived by nonviolence.
Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest for right.
Copy that.
You know, so they had to deal with it. My parents were professional. Larry's parents were professional. Lamar's parents were professional.
Right.
A different culture of blacks,
Fantastic.
at that point, which they couldn't adjust to because most of the time our parents were more intelligent. I mean, they had education.
I follow you.
And most of C. Pleasant that were white, the majority of them were blue collar workers. And that's just the way it was.
I follow you.
Yeah. But I mean, they weren't accepting our education. They weren't accepting, where our parents had moved forward in the culture.
Daydreaming and I'm thinking of you. Daydreaming and I'm thinking of you. Daydreaming and I'm thinking of you. Look at my mind.
But, that's an adjustment they had to make.
Okay, so now I want to get back to the 67. I'll do football. I know you guys won that title, baseball in 67, right? Was that right?
Yeah.
Got you. We'll discuss that in a second. Now, that football team, Woolwine and them were on that team, right?
Right.
You were the only black guy on that team?
No. I played. I was 65 and 66. Okay. 67 was troubling.
Oh, so you're seeing. Oh, so okay, that's okay. I got you. Because you did say Harvey. Okay, got you. Yes. So you got out of Central. You left in 66 with Harvey those year.
No, I left in 67. I couldn't play my senior year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I left in 67.
Copy that.
Trouble and Lamar and them and Woolwine were in 67.
Right. But what Woolwine was 67, I think, and Mr. Tolan was 67.
Yeah, both of them were 67.
That was just a year behind. That was 68, I think.
Yeah, Lamar. Yeah, Trouble was 68.
Got you. So now I'm hearing some things about this environment. I know you can really help me out with this. That environment between Holly Park, Booker T, Fairmont Heights. there was a lot going on with our community, music talent-wise, fashion, sports, that whole vibe there. So how was your teenage years socially? From what I understand, I said Black Fonzie. I'm trying to make, that's it. I'm just saying, but that's what I heard about you. I heard you were absolute humdinger. You understand?
Hey man, look, I can say this, Calvin. I enjoyed life, academically, socially. I mean, I always had a good time. I never hated going to school. I enjoyed school. I enjoyed the relationships. I enjoyed my weekends, but like I said, Friday night, I'm gone. I'm in DC. Every Friday, every Saturday, every Sunday. I mean, we used to party a lot. I mean, we'd be on the phone on a Friday night. We had 15 parties to go to in DC. Now, keep in mind, in DC, you could go northwest, northeast. It's not like it is now. We went everywhere.
Okay.
We spent Sunday in Rock Creek Park just laying out, chilling.
What were some of the places you actually frequented there in the city?
In DC?
Yes.
Oh, I spent a lot of time in, the whole area of DC. But if you're talking about just socializing, I spent a lot of time in Georgetown. Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of time at Rock Creek Park. Those were all good social areas, especially if you were on a date.
Copy that.
I used to canoe down in Georgetown. Down there, you go out on a canoe. A lot of these things you can't even do anymore.
Right.
Yeah, you had Howard Theater.
Right, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Howard Theater was always a nice place to go on the weekend.
So DC was gritty. Now you're talking about Howard Theater, but I mean, going down there. If you went down there with a female, when I've studied, you had to be thorough to go down there.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the line would be around the theater to get in there.
Right.
You're going to see Martha and the Vandellas, Smokey.
James
all
Brown.
Those guys would be there. Everybody that was anybody was there.
already getting more than I thought I was going to get. The thing was, I didn't know you were that connected to the city.
Like, that's my roots, man.
That's really, got you. So now tell me about some of the wars. I'm going to go to different sports, but the wars, let's stay with football for a minute. Rivals, I guess Glen Park, Suitland, people like that, you guys were playing those guys?
Our biggest rival, I think I would say, was Surrattsville.
Okay, Surrattsville, okay.
Yeah. They had a good team. Then we played Annapolis, we played Southern.
Okay.
All those were pretty strong teams,
Gotcha.
But I would say Surrattsville was probably one of the more aggressive teams as far as being competitive. We went against Surrattsville in football and baseball and basketball. They had a guy there. Matter of fact, we ended up going to college together, Al Thomas.
Okay. Al Thomas.
From Surrattsville, and he played football and basketball, and he was a very good athlete.
I'm gonna tell you what kind of friend my father paints you. He said with his first touchdown or something like that, he said, "Man, Yates was so happy to see me run that touchdown, man." He said I had the bogus outfit on. He said they gave me the cheap equipment. He said I was running. He said my helmet was twisting around on my head, and all he said Yates was ecstatic. That's what I'm saying, the kind of relationship my father describes you for him, right? Which that's why I said I was so amped to talk to you.
On offense, I played a running back. It was myself and Doug Wright.
Right, Mr. Wright.
Doug Wright. Now that's a good dude there.
Yeah, that's it.
He's a feisty dude.
Yeah,
probably that's the first person I met before we got to Central, because he lived around the corner from me.
Okay.
And I met him before I got into Central, and I didn't know we were going to school together. But him and I developed a relationship right from the start.
You were living around there.
Yeah, I lived 5 minutes from him.
Copy that.
Yeah. So I met Doug Wright before we even got to high school. So, that's a feisty dude there. But I played, he was the running back, I was a running back. And sometimes Woolwine would come in as a fullback. We ran like three backs. So every now and then, they call him the slot receiver now. We call it the flanker.
Right. That's old. I got flanker. Yeah.
Yep. So I would be the flanker in the slot, So either I'd run the ball or I'd catch a pass.
That neighborhood, I know exactly where it is. You come down the hill, and then here's Central. They got a shopping center over there and stuff now.
Right.
But I'm saying to have met the other guy to play running back with you there, that means that your neighborhood was, you come outside, right? And you were living around white people. Right.
Well, in that area, Holly Park was black.
So Holly Park back then was black.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But F Street was white.
That close to each other.
Yeah. You had to go down F Street to get to Holly Park.
Got you.
And then Booker T was on the other side of the highway.
Copy that.
Yeah.
Well, your grocery stores back then, were they still like the Safeway and AMP and Dart?
Safeway, AMP.
That's where all you guys went.
Yep.
The shop.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm getting my context here because you just went to school in such a controversial switch over time.
There's no question. We were right in the heat of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to live through you right now because it's amazing how. So let's slow down. We'll go back to now. Let's talk baseball in terms of So you started playing that when?
Started playing baseball in the 11th grade, because the 10th grade I ran track. So I played baseball in the 11th grade. I think Larry might have been on the JV that year. And then I think they moved him up because I think he played some games with me at second base. He was at second base. I was playing shortstop, and the guy that was playing third base had a very weak glove, and I can't remember who it was. Might have been Ricky Farr, I'm not sure. But the coach changed me to third base.
Okay.
And I think Ricky Farr moved to shortstop. And I had a lot of fun playing. I never played third base. I always played shortstop. So he moved me there, and it was just very interesting to play that position. I had a great season playing. I was the number one. I always was the first batter up because then, I think Lamar was third or fourth.
Right.
And I'd be on base. So, I mean, I'm stealing bases, So, because we had the speed. So I'm stealing bases. Most of the time, Lamar's going to bring me in with a hit.
Right.
By that time, I stole second and stole third, So he's going to bring me home because I would say Lamar probably had the most consistent swing and hits on the team.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. I mean, Lamar could take it out of the park. Me, I was a place hitter. I'm hitting the ball right over the shortstop's head because I can make the turn, and by the time they get the ball, I might be going to second. But Lamar would take it out of the park, and Larry was a place hitter.
Mr. Bailey said he liked to steal sometime too.
Oh, he could steal bases, yeah. Larry could steal, yeah. Matter of fact, when I left, he probably was the lead hitter. He probably was number one at bat. He's probably the first one up because he wanted to get us on base so we could steal the bases.
Yeah,
yeah. So pretty much, yeah, he could steal bases.
How was Woolwine?
Woolwine is solid in everything he did. He's just a consistent player.
Yeah.
His basic skills are good.
Copy that.
Yeah.
He played basketball too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Woolwine didn't do anything that you would say, wow, look at that play. He just was consistent. Like when we're in the backfield and he's in the backfield, dude could block. Dude would try to uproot you. That's what he would try to do.
I got you.
But he was consistent at what he did.
Who was the quarterback your last year playing football?
Ricky Farr.
That's right. I saw Mr. Farr. Okay, got you. So now my thing is, what's big time important is we're going to always have that big question to ask: where were you in '68 when Dr. King was assassinated?
I was at the University of Maryland on campus.
It was kind of gut-wrenching to me personally to see, people looting the stores and grocery stores and appliance stores and things like that. Of course, the main thing for the police was to control that, restore crowd control, and to protect property and lives wherever you possibly could.
But as I look back on the destruction that occurred, the one thought that continued to come into my mind is that where will the people that lived in these areas now shop for food, get their milk, and all of the other things that you do in any neighborhood?
We had no food. You didn't think of that. We didn't have time. Now, one time, some grandmother came out in her silverware, poor woman, but it cut the crust off and made us like 4 sandwiches and apologized. She said, I don't know what's going on, but I see you all don't have time to eat, or obviously. So like for 12 hours, that's all the food we had. But what a sweetheart lady coming out in the streets under these circumstances.
Because, University of Maryland is elevated up. We can see the city from the campus. You can see the flames. And we had some serious events going on at that point in time on campus at Maryland.
Please share them with us.
Most people don't realize, even though Maryland is here in Maryland, that's a Southern school.
Yes.
And they flew a lot of the wrong flags on some of those fraternities. Fraternity roll, they had a lot of negative flags down there. So we had an opportunity. We couldn't do a fraternity. They wouldn't allow us to have a black fraternity on the University of Maryland campus. Then the following year in '68, they said, okay, you can have a fraternity. Well, if we had a fraternity, because they tried to get us to go and join the Howard University's chapter.
Okay.
So they said, well, y'all can have a fraternity. So, but what about the black young ladies on campus? What are they going to be part of? So they said, no, just the fraternity, and that's it. So what we did was we chartered the Black Student Union in 68.
Wow.
So we all got together and said, okay, we're not going to do the fraternity. We're not going to do the sorority, but we're going to do the Black Student Union because that was the only thing they allowed us to have as far as an organization, which is still in place.
Copy that.
And in 68, when that happened in 68, we went down and we took over the administrative building in 68. We closed the campus down. And those fraternities, those white fraternities, they hauling out the window, the N-word. And what they didn't realize was, and they were in a Volkswagen, they didn't realize they were going to get stopped because of traffic. The next thing you know, the car was upside down.
Yeah.
But, you know, they bad in groups, not as individuals. That was in 68 when Martin Luther King died. When we played football and at Maryland, it was only 5 of us that were Black. And one of the best athletes to come out of DC, he's a Hall of Famer for the state of Maryland. One of the best athletes to come out of Maryland. Played for Gaithersburg High School. His name was Tony Green.
Tony Green?
Yeah. Now, Tony Green was an all-Met quarterback at Gaithersburg High School.
Okay.
And he came in the same year I came in. Never, ever quarterback a game at the University of Maryland, you know, because Black quarterbacks weren't accepted then. Not one time did he get under center. He ended up playing for Buffalo for like 6-7 years.
For the big
pro. He played safety. He played secondary. He had no choice. You know, that's the mentality of that day. Yeah.
Okay.
The first person to go to Maryland that was a Black basketball player was a guy named Jones from Baltimore.
Okay.
And then you had Julius Johnson from Fairmont Heights came the next year.
Heard about him.
Peter Rabbit.
Right. Heard about him.
Yeah.
Right.
He played, I think Peter came out in 65, I think 65.
Yep. I'm going to push
it. And by the time I got to Maryland and watched him play, they had changed his game. I mean, I watched this boy in high school who could shoot from everywhere. And all of a sudden now he's a player that slows the game down because that's how they played. Not run and gun.
And
yeah.
I know the history with that. And see, my father says that Rabbit, he said that's the closest thing. He said that he was our Limbaugh.
Yeah, yeah. Julius Johnson, yeah. Peter Rabbit. Yeah. Without a doubt.
And you said they changed his game.
Oh, destroyed his game. They didn't just change his game, they destroyed his game. Wasn't even the same player. Now you got to remember that Jones was the first Black in the ACC. He's the first Black to play for Maryland. He was the first Black to play in the ACC in basketball.
Wow. Copy that. See, my mother went there and she always told me, she said, man, Maryland is not what y'all think it is.
Wait a minute. Who is your mom?
My mother was Sandra Ruffin Cherry. She was head
know who she is. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know your mom. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's good.
She's always a sweet person, man.
Yeah, cool.
She used to live around the street from my wife, around the corner.
Look, man, that's where I grew up. So are you telling me that your wife is from? We lived on 613 63rd place.
Yeah, and my wife was on 64th place, I think it was.
What?
Yeah.
The hill, she is coming down the hill? Is that what?
Yeah, from Gregory Estates come down the hill.
Right.
Yeah.
She was on that street?
Yeah. Y'all were over on the other street, one block over. Cherry, right? Your mom, Cherry, right?
Yeah, it was right around the corner. But I'm saying that's the street, man, that we all just were playing football on that street. You know, that was our street, man.
Yeah, I know your mom. Yeah.
Your wife is from there. What was her address there? Like, I mean, did you remember?
I think it was 607 64th place.
I just gotta know because I mean, that's.
They were right in the middle of the block. If you go down the hill, it'll be on the left side.
Man, I can't believe that's my absolute stomping ground. That's like up to 15 because I ended up going to the city and spending the rest of my life. But I'm saying like that's our. This is a small world, man.
Oh yeah. No, I I thought that was your mom, but I wasn't sure. I was going to ask you before we got off the phone who your mom was.
Did you leave Maryland, go to another, or did you stay at Maryland?
No, I stayed at Maryland. Yeah. Yeah, I stayed there. Matter of fact, the only reason I went to Maryland was it kept me close to home.
Right.
But I had an opportunity to go to Morgan for football scholarship or Howard University.
Good. Yeah.
And I also visited San Diego State for baseball.
Okay.
But the thing is, if I had picked any of those schools, I would have never graduated because Howard University and Morgan like to party.
Yes, sir.
I like to party. So that was my thing. I'll never graduate because I would be partying. So I stayed at Maryland, and that way I knew I'd be strictly academic, more so than anything.
You were a cold baller and player, but you had something a lot of cats didn't have with that, and that was that knowledge of self, number one, and number two, clearly you must have wanted to succeed, man, because that choice I'm saying, who would have passed up Morgan and Howard, man?
I tell you, it wasn't easy. And see, Lamar went to Morgan.
Morgan, I know. Yep.
Yeah. And see, there was a lot of guys that played with me in DC before we got in high school that were playing at Morgan at the time. So I did a walk. You know how they bring you on an invitation to visit campus in the football program. I went up there and did that. So I had a lot of friends already there, which I partied with them a lot, so I already knew the story. There were a couple of guys that were older than I was, But we had a strong history, man, in DC of sports, man. I played CYO with Austin Carr.
Austin
played for the Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, we played football. We played basketball. We played basketball all together until we went to high school.
How did we get from all this athletics, scholarship, fashion, class, the women had debutante balls, all the stuff that was going on. By the time I got there, man, because I'm being honest, like it was so crazy. I was a cold schoolboy at heart. But by the time I came along, I had to take my glasses off. I had to see Pleasant was a war zone, man.
Exactly.
So how did we get to that stage from my father just being only 18 years older than me?
See, the thing is, man, here's the deal. We bonded. No matter where you were in DC or C. Pleasant, we all bonded. Harvey Dorsey and I were friends. We talked crap, but I knew Harvey. Harvey knew me.
Right.
Reggie Killebrew, all of us. Larry Williams, all of them went to Fairmont Heights. I ended up playing flag football with these guys from Fairmont Heights.
Right.
And they had Fairmont Heights colors on their jersey.
Right.
And the guy came to me after I played there about 2-3 years with them after I got out of college. He said, Rick, we finally got you in the Fairmont Heights colors. Did you know that? And my wife started laughing because she knew the colors because she was a cheerleader at Fairmont Heights. So
I need to know what was her maiden name, please?
Ellen Thomas.
Ellen Thomas?
Uh-huh.
Okay. What year she come out?
She came out in 66.
Wife went to Fairmont, cheerleader, got you.
Yeah. That's how I met her.
And I know those some gold. I know some golden time, and that I know the Central and Fairmont Heights thing was heated.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Without a doubt. But I mean, you talk about the transition from when you came through C. Pleasant when we were there.
Yeah.
We had a bonding. We bonded, and we didn't fight each other. Every now and then somebody might get in a scuffle.
Yeah.
But we more so bonded. And the relationships developed and everybody supported each other. So we weren't trying to tear each other apart.
Was that because of the social environment though, I'm asking?
Yeah. It definitely was a social. We were more social than probably your age group. I mean, it's just a completely different mindset.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. But I think we just had more of an intelligent aspect of we're going to enjoy life.
Right.
You know, and it was kind of like a unspoken word. You know, we got along.